Hello, welcome back to the Watford Way. Today for a breaking news style video. The talk of the town is that Paulo Pezzolano is set to be sacked as Watford head coach, with Javi Gracia coming in as his replacement. Sky Sports are running with this story, as are other national media outlets. The story is this: Watford are set to sack head coach Paulo Pezzolano. Crunch talks are being held today with the club hierarchy, and they are expected to part ways with the 42-year-old. Pezzolano joined Watford in May and has had a mixed start in the Championship this season after being heavily backed in the transfer market. The club sit in 11th position in the Championship table, having won 3, drawn 3, and lost 3 matches. Sky Sports News understands Javi Gracia is the #1 target to replace Pezzolano. So that is the story being reported in the media. Now, of course, at this stage, it's not actually happened. Nothing has actually happened at this stage of the day. Of course, a club statement could be posted by Watford any moment now, and I'm expecting that either later today or tomorrow, certainly before the players return to training. But yeah, when I saw that this morning, I was not shocked at the news PP had been sacked, because, as I've said on here many times, I think I expected that to happen at some point this season, certainly not as early as it has done. But the massive shock to me was, of course, Javi Gracia coming in. And today's stream isn't really going to be about my thoughts and opinions. I've done a whole separate video on that already. You can go and check that out on the channel. But I want to hear from you guys in the live chat. What do you think about the decision? Did you want Paulo to stay and give him more time? Or were you with the view that I had, where it just wasn't working from both a communication, but most importantly, a man management perspective? So yeah, an interesting situation we find ourselves in, of course, an emergency live stream. So yeah, we'll take a quick look at some of your comments, and then in just a moment we'll be building potentially Javi's on. So this could be the team we put together for Javi Gracia. How will he set up? What players will he use? Of course, he uses, or he did use, I should say, a 4-4-2 formation during his previous stint at the club. So after we've spoke to you guys for about 15 minutes or so, we'll go and assemble what we believe to be the best team Javi can put together in that system. So yeah, an interesting thing to do today. But let's take a quick look at some of your comments. Richard says, "Evening, James." Evan Mitchell says, "Hello, I'm so happy. Bye bye, Pezzolano." Ian, welcome to the stream. He says, "A very interesting decision. Personally, one I would welcome, and could never connect with PP as far as team selections, substitutions, and tactics were concerned. Welcome back, Javi." Owen says, "Evening, James. It's nice to meet you outside the ground, Owen, of course." Josh Lewis says, "We're expecting confirmation tonight or tomorrow, James." Absolutely. So my educated guess, and I don't know when the confirmation will be, I've got no idea whatsoever, but the players usually get given 2, 3, sometimes 4 days off over international breaks. And yeah, I would expect confirmation to come prior to the players returning to training. So if it's not tonight, I would imagine at some point tomorrow we'll get an official club statement from Watford saying that Paulo has left the club. What is my expectation for the rest of the season under Javi, despite what the club say? I think we'll come on to this now, actually, and my thoughts shift around a little bit, because I sound hypocritical at times, because I get as frustrated as you do when it comes to the amount of managers we dismiss. We are a laughing stock in the footballing world. I completely get that, and actually I've accepted that for a long time now. Whenever you meet someone new and they say, "Who do you support?" and you say Watford, the first point of conversation is the amount of managers we sack. So I've completely accepted that part about supporting Watford. What I would say, though, is that whilst I don't think Paulo Pezzolano was the right appointment, I do agree with the comments he made in the media a few days ago, suggesting that if Watford are to be a serious club, at some point we do have to stick with someone. Now, in my opinion, Paulo Pezzolano wasn't the person we should stick with. Will that be Javi? Only time will tell ultimately. But I thought it was very telling that Paulo come out openly and said that in the media, that Watford, if they are to be a serious club, can't keep sacking managers after 8, 9 or 10 games in charge. And we shouldn't be 9 games into a season and where every time Paulo loses, panic that it's his last game in charge. It's not a sustainable way to run a football club. It's certainly not sustainable for supporters emotionally. Thinking every single game he loses is the last game of that manager's tenure. So it's a bizarre situation to be in, but I would say the large majority of Watford fans probably wanted this decision to happen. But again, we do sound hypocritical because I've called for the sacking and then I'm also criticising Gino for the sacking as well. So yeah, I think you can have both points of view in my opinion. But yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it? It's a very, very odd situation. And maybe I've been brainwashed into Gino Pozzo's way of thinking. I don't know. Maybe I have, and you can tell me I have if you believe so. But on this occasion, I do genuinely feel he has dug his own grave, in that I personally was quite happy to sit with Tom for 2 or 3 seasons and create a long-term project with him. It was clear to me anyway that I felt he was the right person for the job, regardless of his results last season. Unfortunately, and this is where I feel Gino and the club have dug their own grave, they've made it very clear what the ambitions are for this season, and rightly or wrongly, they've hit panic stations after 9 games. Now, it's not totally down to Paulo's tactics and team selections. It's much deeper than that. It goes into really the core of the Watford dressing room and how many, let's say, high-profile players he has upset in and around the squad. So there's a multitude of factors that will go into the sack, and I'd be interested to see the justification Watford actually use in the statement, because from an outsider looking in, this looks ridiculous. Watford have picked up 7 points from 9. We're unbeaten in 3 games. And where are we? We're 10th, 11th place in the championship. So I think for outsiders looking in at Watford, this could be the most ridiculous sacking of all. But actually, as Watford fans, we kind of understand why they've done it, even though we disagree with yet sacking another manager. Now, long term, is Javi Gracia the right person? Well, he's proved himself at Watford before. In my lifetime, he had the most successful season I've ever seen, reaching the Emirates FA Cup final in the 2018-19 season, and we almost qualified for European football through the league as well. But you have to remember, at that time, of course, the Watford team was very different. We had Troy Deeney and Andre Gray up front, a big man and a little man, and we have that this season with Luca and Iran Kunda, which we'll come on to when we build, Javi Gracia's team. But yeah, we're in very different situations from 2018-19 to where we are now, if Javi does, of course, join the club. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but yeah, I'm sure Watford will stick by the fact that they want to get the playoffs this season. They want to achieve top 6 in the championship, and I think this squad is very capable of doing that. So yeah, it's exciting, it's fun, it's humiliating, it's all the emotions put together, really. But as I said in my video earlier, I would not want to support any other club. I do enjoy supporting Watford, regardless of the circus that goes on around it. And before I forget as well, ultimately, when we talk about sackings and stuff, or appointing managers in this case, the buck has to fall on the owner. Let's not forget that at all. Whilst we can praise him for the transfer window, which quite rightly was fantastic in my eyes, Gino Pozzo, Gianluca Nani, Scott Duxby, Valon Barami, them 4 people collectively would have made the decision to appoint Paulo Pezzolano, and they would have known what they were getting with Paulo. They would have known about his personality from his previous clubs in Spain and South America. He's quite a abrasive, cold character, a bit like Ivic. That's the comparison I'm making. Unfortunately, it just hasn't worked. And in the club statement, what I would like to see is actually Watford just going, you know what, we got this wrong. We're going to hold our hands up. We've made the change. We've brought in someone all the fans can get behind. He's got more credit in the bank than probably both Paulo and Tom combined. Javi Gracia is a Watford legend. So, yeah, it's a strange, strange situation. My concern with Javi ultimately is I don't want this season, regardless of how it goes, to ruin his Watford legacy. He could become an even bigger legend than he is already by achieving promotion with the Golden Boys this season. But again, that seems like a long shot at the moment. Okay, let's take a look at a few more of your comments. Ballum says, you say PP, do you need to do a PP? That's just my way of abbreviating Paulo, Ballum. But yeah, funny joke, funny joke. Jake says, very baffled we haven't announced Paulo being sacked. It could come at any time. It could come why I'm here talking to you today. It's obviously in Watford's interest to get Javi Gracia sorted first as well. You don't want to get rid of Paulo before having your new man ready to join. And whether that seems ruthless or not, that is business, that is football, and that is how this world operates. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if tomorrow at noon, for example, they announce Paulo, and then 10 minutes later, they do a lovely, propaganda post saying Javi Gracia is coming back. So yeah, unfortunately, that is just how football works, I'm afraid. Richard says results were improving, but Pozzo felt the need to change. Exactly. It's such a weird one. It's such a weird one because I'm kind of like this. I can see some people's point of view, and then I'm leaning to this side, and then this side, and then this side. So yeah, it's I can see why people would want Paulo to stay. Look, I totally get that. There was people commenting under lots of my videos saying my opinions were stupid and ridiculous, and that we should stick with Paulo. And I totally get that because at some point you want to have a project manager. You want to have a project manager. But Gino this season hasn't set us up to be a project. This is short-termism, what we have right now. It's basically playoffs or bust. That's how I'm viewing it. And if they feel Javi's the man, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I want to get invested, get on the train, and yeah, hopefully have a good end to the season. So yeah, for me, I really tried hard to get behind Paulo. When he first joined, I was sat here on a live stream like I am today several months ago, and I really struggled to find any reasoning as to why I should like Paulo. And throughout pre-season and the start of this season, I tried my very hardest to get emotionally invested with the guy. I really wanted him to do well. I would have loved nothing more than for Paulo to sit here in 6 or 7 months and completely prove me wrong. And then we all go down the pond and have a lovely promotion party. I would have loved that. Unfortunately, I could never warm to the guy. I just never... It was something about his personality, his lack of ability to communicate. Man management was a massive thing for me as well. Dragging off, I know the substitution worked in the end, in hindsight, but dragging off Iran Kunda like he did was a bit of a power play for me. It was like Paulo trying to assert his dominance on the squad. The last roll of the dice from him, perhaps. Kwadwo Bar at the weekend, again, that's another example. Kwadwo was visibly furious when he was coming off the bench for the last 5 minutes against Oxford, and from other people's accounts who sit that side of the pitch, he stormed down the tunnel, he kicked bottles against the wall as well. So a lot of players were upset. There's players I've not mentioned who are extremely upset with their situations in the squad, and they haven't featured in the squad for several weeks. They've not even been on the bench. So as I said, there's a multitude of factors that go into these things, but yeah, for one reason or another, it just wasn't a cultural fit with Watford. I just don't think Paulo matched us, the fans. He didn't match the squad, who are all young and have a lot of potential. And I just think they need someone to come in and nurture them. Someone who's been there, they've done it. They're a bit of an older manager, as Javi is. He's a bubbly, happy character. He's liked by the media. He's liked by the fans. I do think it's a match made in heaven. But as I said, the risk you have is that you're potentially tarnishing his Watford legacy if it goes wrong. That is the risk we are ultimately taking. Evan says, is that 12 managers in 5 years? I don't have the actual number in front of me, but that sounds about right. That sounds about right. I think Watford at the moment average about 2 managers a year. So maybe in another 6 months we'll be sitting here talking about Sean Dyche or someone else joining the Golden Boys. But yeah. Ian says some silly comments from PP and the dressing room didn't help. Yeah, I think people are maybe over-egging this dressing room video somewhat. I certainly think it was ill-advised by Watford to publish that, given the fans' opinions of Paulo at that moment in time. It didn't do him any favours, let's be frank here. I think, as I said, I don't like to bring this up too much because, as I said, there's much more that goes into a managerial sacking other than his lack of English and ability to speak the language. But I do feel that was a massive factor in how quickly we turned against Paulo. Never in my life have I seen the Rookery start chanting to our own manager, sacked in the morning. And against Hull City, they did just that. And at that moment, I really did feel sorry for the guy. I don't mind doing it for opposition managers when they come to Watford. It's all fun and games at the end of the day. But doing it to our squad and our manager, as much as we may have disliked him, I found quite poor in taste. And I do feel ultimately, whilst his English did improve from when we first saw him to today, there was still a big issue there. As a manager, how are you meant to hold relationships, valuable emotional relationships with your players when after 30 seconds you require the use of a translator? So, yeah, I think that was, for me, it probably played a massive role into where we are today. Taking that, so many comments coming in, lots of you watching as well. Sonderberg says it's not even confirmed. Well, it will be confirmed imminently. I mean, all of the national media have ran with this story. So yeah, just waiting for really the official Watford club statement. There was something on social media earlier suggesting that Javi Gracia may struggle to get a work permit, but I'm not sure this story would have even come out unless Watford were sure that it could be done and dusted very soon. Melanie, one of our channel members, says it's a sad situation. Hopefully Javi is a Graham Taylor too and not a Kike Sanchez Flores too. Oh, don't remind me about Kike. Of course, we've gone back for Watford managers before. Graham Taylor famously come back to the club for a second stint, way before I was born, I have to say. I'm not trying to make many of you feel old if you're watching. But yeah, of course, I never got to see Graham Taylor at Watford. I saw him in the stands and come onto the pitch when they opened the stand in his honour, of course. But yeah, I was never able and had the privilege to watch Graham Taylor at Watford. But as Melanie says, we do not want a repeat of Kike Sanchez Flores number 2. I remember Manchester City very well. We were 5-0 down in under 20 minutes, I believe it was, which was, certainly not a good day for all the Watford fans that went. And yeah, I think Javi, though, has, even when you compare Javi to Kike, I think Javi has so much more credit and experience in the bank. So, let's hope it's not a repeat of that. But I back Javi. I do believe in his methodology and his formations as well. Rio, hello Rio. He says, reckon we know tomorrow as the players probably go back to training. Then yeah, I imagine the players will probably go back to training in the next couple of days. A good point here from Yoni. Javi Gracia was not good at Leeds. That has to be said. I don't know if he's the right guy, but he did get Watford to the FA Cup final. Yeah, of course, Javi has had many jobs. I think he's had 3 or 4 jobs, actually, since he left Watford, both in the UK and abroad. I don't think any of them were particularly successful. Certainly at Leeds, it wasn't successful. I don't think their fans really warmed to him at all. So, yeah. I just have to sit here and laugh here. I can't believe we're having this conversation again. Ian says the current squad of players we have should be better than 11th in the Championship. I don't think this is even about the league table. I don't think Gino Pozzo has looked at the league table and gone panic stations from that. As I said, I think there's deeper things underlying here that have led to this decision being made. And you have to remember, whilst we all may hear things from my nan up the road or whoever it may be, we all hear things from different people, whether it's friends, family, connections, social media, whatever it may be. We're not there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, watching the players in training and how they react behind the scenes. There could have been something massive that happened behind the scenes and we're not aware. So yeah, there's a lot more that goes into these things than just the league table alone. And when you look at the league table, I mean, Watford are, with 3 points off the playoffs, but we're probably 3 points off the relegation zone. So yeah, at this point of the season, until we're around Christmas time, I would say, that's when you can take the league table seriously. I think at this stage, you've probably got the automatic promotion place teams who are looking pretty good, but everyone below them is up for grabs, really. So yeah, I don't think you can read too much into the league table at all. Ethan says FA Cup final loading. Could you imagine, Ethan? Could you imagine Watford getting to another FA Cup final this season? I'd love it. I would absolutely love it. Jake says, I think Paulo lost the dressing room before the whole game. So from what I saw earlier, it seemed like this has been in the works for the past week or so, the decision to bring Javi to the club. Certainly before the Portsmouth game is what I've heard. So yeah, I think Watford, before the run of 3 games we've had probably made the decision that it wasn't working one way or another and wanted to make the change. And I'd much rather Watford just made the change straight away rather than waiting until November, December, January, because by that point, playoffs could be out of reach or certainly much harder to get. So for once, I'm actually glad we made the change early rather than waiting several months down the line. Patrick says, was it a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-3-1 last time with Javi? It was a pretty rigid 4-4-2, I would say. He could certainly adapt depending on in-game situations, but it was a long time ago now. I'd have to go back and watch a few games more in depth potentially to get a real idea about how he played. But yeah, he certainly didn't like using what you would call out-and-out wingers, which could be red flags for Kwadwo Bar perhaps. Roberto Pereira was at the club, of course. I wouldn't class him as a winger per se, but he featured in Javi's system. Gerard Deulofeu certainly did quite well, and you could argue he was a wide player as well. So I wouldn't worry too much, and we'll come on to that in a second as well when we assemble potentially his best team. An interesting different opinion here. KO Drummers, this is unfair. I thought Pezzolano had his players and was going well with 7 points in a week. That's fair enough. I've seen that perspective put out by a few people. As I said, I'm like this. I get what you're saying here, but I get what people are saying here. I try to stay as balanced as possible, but yeah, in conclusion, I do feel this decision is correct and the right one to make. Ismaila Sarr, actually, I can see Patrick mentioning it here. He was ultimately Javi's downfall. He was certainly a contributing factor to the reason we sacked Javi last time. And actually, when we sacked Javi back in 2019, I thought that was unjustified at the time. So, yeah, hopefully, maybe Watford will even admit that in the club statement they release. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, we'll leave it there because we're just repeating the same subjects over and over again. Let's bring up our lineup builder. So you guys can help me out here. We are going to build Javi Gracia's 4-4-2 formation. So what are we going to see over the next couple of months? The January transfer window is far away. We've got the players we have available currently. What should we do? Well, starting in goal, I think it's pretty obvious. Let's get in Egil Selvik. Here he is, our Norwegian goalkeeper. Add him into the team. So Egil Selvik is in goal. Who do you guys want at right back? I know Jeremy Petrie has impressed in recent weeks, but of course he is much more effective in that wing back role, playing quite high and wide, whipping crosses into the penalty area. For Javi's system, Would you say maybe Jeremy Ngakia is the better option for his defensive abilities? Do let me know in the live chat. I'll tell you what we'll do. Shall we put a couple of polls in? Oh, Jake's already got his team here. Jake has gone Selvik Petrie, Mendy Caben, Wiley Barr, Papa Mendy, Loser, Vata, Iran Kunda, and Luca. Interesting. Ian has gone Ngakia. Josh has gone Ngakia as well. Better as a right back. Oh, you mentioned Kiko Femenir. How good was he? Oh, what a good right back he was. Sexy football when we had Kiko Femenir. It was so good. So yeah, I think the general consensus is we'll go with Ngakia at right back. So we'll get him added in. There he is. Now, the centre-back situation is interesting because we have recruited this summer a lot of centre-backs because we are expecting with Paulo, and we have done up to this point, to play a back five with 2 wing-backs and 3 centre-backs. That's been the primary system under Paulo Pezzolano. And unfortunately, for all the centre-backs we now have at the club, as you can see here, there is only 2 spaces available. So, who do we add? You've got Matty Pollock, Formosa Mendy, Max Elaine, James Abankwa, Kevin Caben. I mean, the competition for places in that position is pretty strong. It's probably the most competitive position we have on the pitch. So I'll let you guys discuss that in the live chat. In the meanwhile, I'll add in Caleb Wiley at left back because I do think that's the obvious option for that position. I think Boller clearly is adequate and I wouldn't mind if he played at all. But Wiley has the potential, and he has the potential and talent. But of course, he's from Chelsea. We brought him in from Chelsea for a reason. He's a very talented player. So yeah, Caleb Wiley in at left back for me. The centre backs is hard. I think I would go maybe Kevin Caben and James Abankwa would be my first option. Lad FC here's gone Max Elaine and Kevin Caben. I mean, Max Elaine has had a great season so far. I'm not sure if there's some sort of clause in his contract though from Manchester City that suggests he has to play a certain number of games. Yoni has gone Caben and Pollock. I just think in this system, Yoni, you need someone with, quite a bit of recovery pace. And Matty Pollock, as much as I love the guy, he turns like a tractor. He's not very mobile. So Matty, if you are watching, I do apologise. You're great in the air, but you can't turn at all. You turn like a slug. So I'm not sure Matty Pollock would maybe suit that system. I mean, Josh saying Boller maybe works better as a left back. I'll keep Wiley for now. We'll come back to it at the end. I'm going to go for James Abankwa because he really impressed me against Oxford. I thought he was one of our better players in that Oxford game. And I will go with Kevin Caben. Although, I think Max Elaine could maybe push him for that role. We've got Formosa Mendy we brought in from Lorient as well. So yeah, I would fully expect a few Watford defenders to be pretty unhappy with this new system if that is what Javi uses, because ultimately it's going to be hard for a lot of them to break into the team. So we've got our goalkeeper, we've got our back four. We'll come back to this at the end and ask you for your final opinions if anything needs to be changed. This midfield four is where we can have big discussions, really, because you can either go and play quite natural wingers out wide, or you could do what Javi did and have like a Will Hughes type player or a Bobby P, where they're not, full-on wingers attacking their fullbacks, but they can certainly drift inside and contribute in midfield. So I think for me, we'll start with the obvious, which is Imran Loser. I think he goes straight into the team without a doubt. I think the next player I would bring in is Hector, and hopefully I can spell his name right. There we go, Hector Cipriani. So to me, already that's looking good. I think then you have to include Kwadwo Bar. You have to include Kwadwo Bar, because my main issue with Paulo was ultimately his use of Kwadwo. I think it was evident to everyone that him coming on for the last 5 minutes against Oxford was one of the most ridiculous things we've ever seen. I mean, a lot of you disagreeing with me here. Bar and batter. So you guys have gone loser, Hector, Vatter and Bar. Okay. I like that, actually. You know what? A lot of you are saying that. Let's go with it. Let's go with it. I would be tempted to put in, I think like Papa Mendy deserves a shout. Pierre Duomo, of course, as well. Let's do it. Let's do it. I do think it's slightly unbalanced, maybe, for how Javi wants to play. But we'll go Bar on the right, Vatter on the left. Okay. And then I think it's pretty obvious where we go from here. We'll go with Luca. Can I spell his name right? Hold on. Oh, there he is. I found him. He's on the list. Luca Kirumgard. And then Nestri Irankunda, potentially. So, how does that look? Does that look perfect to you guys? Or are there any changes you would make? Let's have a look. What do you think about that? Does that scream promotion? Does that scream we are going to the Premier League? Zanzo, shout out to Zanzo. He says he played 4 midfielders, so I should put Bar up front like he did with Delafeu. Interesting. I was thinking that. Fabian says, where does this leave Georgie? Where does this leave Georgie? He needs to get fit first, ultimately, Fabian. Ian's gone Nestri and Luca Kiramgard up front. Good point here from Jake. He reckons when Chak is fit, take Vatter out for him. That's a good shout. I think that would be much more balanced when George is back. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Shall we swap out Caleb Wiley for Mark Boller, or shall we leave it there? I think that's good. So from back to front, we've got Egil Selvik, Ngakia, Abankwa, Keben, Caleb Wiley, Kwadwo Bar, Imran Luza, Hector Kiprianu, Rocco Vatter, Luca Kiramgard, and Nestri Irankunda. So, there we go. That is our final team. Lad FC says leave for now. Yoni says it looks like promotion. That is what I love to hear. Richard says Georgie to come back when he's fit. A lot of you seem to be saying that. Ian's saying we seem to have more of a sensible team selection in this stream than PP ever did. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. Charlotte says, great squad on paper. Will be interesting to see if Javi can bring back the same team spirit we had under Cleverly. Patrick says, if not promotion, it's certainly top 8 quality. I mean, you look at that. I mean, that is a pretty good Watford team. And the options we have on the bench as well, we're forgetting about Mamadou Doumbia, Georgie when he's back, Pierre Duomo, obviously all the centre-back options as well, Jeremy Petrie, Mark Boller, Nathan Baxter, Formosa Mendy. There's lots of options there in midfield. Papa Mendy, obviously the midfielder we brought in from Leicester City as well. So that looks good. That looks really good. I might tweet that actually after the stream to see what people are saying. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what is going on with Georgie. When he comes back into the team, I'm sure he'll play a massive part. But yeah, PP not even playing a single game of football with Georgie Shatfatatse. So yeah, interesting. Ian Crute saying Doumbia is certainly the forgotten man this season. There's a few forgotten men. Pierre Duomo you can put in there as well. You know, Doumbia and Duomo not featuring in any of the Watford squads in the past 3 or 4 game weeks. Melanie says no Sissoko or Kayembe. Definitely not. Definitely not. Yeah. No Sissoko or Kayembe in my team, I'm afraid. Yoni says we have a hard run of games. If we don't, we have a hard run of games. If we don't lose one game from this run, we will get promoted. I like it. I like the positivity. You guys are giving me good vibes in the stream today. Let's take a quick look actually at Watford's next 5 or 6 fixtures. So We have Sheffield United on the 18th of October, followed by West Brom at home, Coventry away. That's going to be very difficult. Middlesbrough at home, Ipswich away, Bristol City at home, and then Derby County away. So pretty much from the 18th of October to the 22nd of November, we've got a tough run. We really have got an extremely tough run, and that was in my mind part of the reasoning for getting rid of Paulo now, because we struggled as it was to pick up points over the past 3 games. We were behind in every single one of the games. We never even managed to keep a clean sheet under Paulo Pezzolano since he's been at the club. So yeah, that was partly in my thinking, certainly the upcoming run of fixtures. And Javi, again, I'm really excited to have him back. Of course, as I say, this could all fall through at the final moment, but yeah, all national media outlets are reporting that Javi Gracia is set to join Watford. Apparently, he was even at the Grove over the weekend, I heard someone say, which would certainly be a funny occurrence. So yeah, as Charlotte says here, international breaks are always a dangerous time for Watford managers. Jake says we can win all our 3 home games. Josh said we need 10 points from the next 6 games. Melanie, Javi needs to hit the ground running. Matt, with Vata and his fitness, it's not fully improved, but that is because Pezzolano didn't give him enough minutes. Maybe Javi will give him a chance to improve his fitness. Yeah, I think there's a lot of players who have been underutilized with Paulo Pezzolano. Hector Cipriani, for some reason, has started to find himself benched in recent weeks. Matty Pollock come into the starting lineup, which I found interesting. Maybe Paulo wanted to lean on him as one of the leaders in the squad. There has been positives to some of Paulo Pezzolano's football, though. It's not all been negative. I think I have to make that perfectly clear. Whilst there's clearly been big issues behind the scenes with man management and his ability to communicate with the supporters and the players and his fellow coaching staff, I think the football against Oxford and against Portsmouth in the second half was really fun to watch. I mean, against Oxford, the stats were there for you all to see. It was the highest shots Watford have had in a match since, I think, Arsenal back in 2019. We had 27 shots on goal against Oxford, which is really good. It's really exciting to watch, of course, for a supporter in the stands. I wouldn't say they are all massive high XG chances. I want to make that perfectly clear, but we played good football in the second half against Oxford. If Watford were more clinical on a different day, we could have won that 3, 4 or 5-0. I mean, we may have been sat here having a different conversation, but from what I've seen and heard, it seems like the decision to get rid of Paulo was made before the Oxford game and made before the Portsmouth game. So yeah, I think regardless of what happened in the last 3 games, he would have been gone regardless. The only way he could have saved himself was probably by winning every game 5-0 like Coventry City have been under Frank Lampard. So yeah, Ian says PP will probably move up the M1 to Luton. That is funny, actually. It is funny how football works sometimes. Obviously, we all know what goes on between Watford and Luton, and within the space of 24 hours, it looks like we're both going to sack our managers. So yeah, it's funny. It's funny how football works. Okay, we'll leave it there. There's not too much else I can say until Watford release an official club statement, but it's been great to chat with you all this evening. Once again, this is the team we've assembled. Of course, this could change. We could have different players in various positions. People have asked for Vata to be out on this side. I think that's maybe slightly too attacking, perhaps, for Javi, given how he's played before. I might expect another midfielder over here, like a Mendy or a Duomo. But certainly, what I don't want to see anymore is Edu Kayembe and Musa Sissoko starting anywhere near this team. I think we've got enough talent and depth and potential now where we don't need them players to feature as much as maybe they have done. And I hope Javi Gracia realises that himself. So we'll go through the team one more time. Egil Selvik in goal. Ngakia right back. Abankwah, Keben, Wiley. Kwadwo Bar, Imran Luza, Hector Kiprianu, Rocco Vata, Luca Kirumgard, and Nestri Iran Kunda. So a decent team in my opinion. I could see that finishing very high up in the league. And actually the Iran Kunda Luca partnership up front could be reminiscent of Dini and Andre Gray when they were at the club under Javi Gracia. So yeah, we'll leave it there. I'm not going to waffle on for too much longer. Thank you so much for tuning in. Do go and check out the video I released earlier today with some more measured and calm thoughts on the situation, not on a live stream. And of course, don't forget to follow the Watford Way across all social platforms. We are on Twitter, X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and of course here on YouTube as well. So yeah, it's always fun. It's always fun and exciting being a Watford fan. Just waiting for the club statement now, and hopefully we'll get some justification for what's happened behind the scenes in the past few weeks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again very, very soon, I'm sure. Bye-bye. See you later.